Hello everyone, my name is Victoria and today I'll be answering question 5. The question asks, without graphing, describe the similarities and differences between the graphs of the functions in each pair and check your answers by graphing. So first off, I'm going to start by stating the similarities between these two functions, f of x and g of x. So first off, they are both in the same format, and they both have the same numerator and denominator. Their numerator is 1 and their denominator is x squared minus 7x plus 12. From knowing that they have the same numerator and denominator, I know that they will have the same factors in the denominator because their denominators are the same. And I also know that they will have the same vertical asymptotes because vertical asymptotes are components of the denominator, meaning that I can find the vertical asymptotes without using a graph by looking at the denominator and calculating it from there. And because they have the same denominator, I can do so. And they will also have the same horizontal asymptote as well. Both functions also have the same x values, and they both do not have zeros. And I know that they both do not have zeros because there are no factors in the numerator. And I know that there are no factors in the numerator because the x-intercepts, or otherwise known as the zeros of a function, are components of the numerator. So looking at the numerator is 1, and I know that there are no factors. Now I will be stating the differences between these two functions. So again, stating the obvious, f of x is a positive function and g of x is negative. And if you maybe couldn't tell this, I know that g of x is negative because there is a tiny negative sign in front of the function. The negative sign in front of the g of x function causes a reflection in the x-axis, which is why the g of x and f of x functions have opposite y values. And from the investigation of rational functions that was completed, I have been able to identify different trends and characteristics in regard to rational functions. So the first is looking at intervals above and below the x-axis. So the intervals are opposite of each other in the way that if the positive function f of x has an interval above the x-axis, then the negative function g of x will have a similar interval but below the x-axis. And the reason why they are actually the same intervals, not similar, they're actually the same interval, is because they do have the same x values. But the only thing that makes them different is because they have different y values. And in regard to the intervals increasing and decreasing, due to the reflection in the x-axis, each line represented from the positive function f of x that was increasing has now transformed to a decreasing line in the negative function g of x. And this can also happen vice versa as well. So now the second part of the question is being able to check your answers by graphing. So here I have inputted both of these functions into Desmos to have a visual representation of both of these functions. So again, looking at the graph, you can see that there are no zeros, meaning that there are no points that touch the x-axis. And you can see they have, the same vertical asymptote, the same horizontal asymptote. Again, both of these functions have the same x values, and you are able to identify this because due to the reflection in the x-axis, these functions are reflecting each other, sort of like a mirror, where really the only difference is that one function is above the x-axis and one function is below the x-axis. And now that I've mentioned that, you can see that when I was talking about intervals above and below the x-axis, again, you can see that, the intervals are opposite of each other because they have different y values but the same x values. And lastly, in regard to the intervals increasing and decreasing, you can see that when, for example, the positive function is increasing, in the reflection, that would be a decreasing line in the negative function g of x, and vice versa. So really, if one function has an increasing line, in the other function there will be a decreasing line, and so on and so on. So thank you so much for watching my video.